All right, my friends, here we go. This is the ChessDojo Graduates show every Wednesday and Thursday. I am your host, GM Jesse Kraai. Hello. My camera's usually off. I'm usually off, but you know, we make it work. All right, so always a pleasure. I do feel, I learn a lot from this show about chess and chess improvement, about our site. So it's something I have some thankfulness for, even if it might seem like I say the same things all the time. I kind of do. Maybe there'll be an LLM of me someday. First up, we have Pasha. Pasha just joined, you can tell. Oh no, it's weird actually. I said just joined, but they just haven't done anything, at least recently. So let's see, because it says over here that they've been with us since 23. Maybe they just rejoined, I don't know. In any case, 363. We'll give them a follow. Yeah, they haven't done much. So let's see, probably no games. Yeah. Papasha, welcome to the dojo. It looks like you haven't done anything yet, but you're now in this 300, 400 cohort. And we'll see you again probably soon. Next up, we got Joe. Joe's been working at it. Let's see what he says. A month into learning chess seriously, and I have really been enjoying the program and learning about the world of chess and its history. Biggest thing that improved my win rate thus far was learning to be patient and develop my coconuts. I still struggle with strategy, but I have found that when you develop your pieces methodically, the plan often reveals itself to you. That is actually a grandmaster level statement. A good example of this is in my second annotated game. But we'll check that one out. My goal is to join a club when I hopefully get a little bit better in the coming months and start playing regular league games. Boss, you just go ahead and join that club. Just go ahead and join it. And then start a club of, like, let's say it's Joe's St. Louis Club. I don't know where you're living, but you could say, I'll make my own club here on the dojo, bring those people in, then you have a scoreboard. You can see who's doing what. Maybe do some sparring with them. There you go. You're in Ireland. I should have said the Dublin Club, the ChessDojo Dublin Club. Let's see, actually, we'll go first club just because of now. Oh, there it is, the Irish Chess Club. Nice, dude. Yep, that's great. Now, you can see that Joe, we're going to give him a follow here, has been doing a lot of tactics and basically just been busy here for a month plus now. You can see he's hitting his targets. By the way, this is the first graduate show I'm doing where before I was showing it in beta and now it's live for everyone. So what this is this is showing a couple things. But first of all, with the heat map, if you do nothing with your training plan, it'll set you as a default for 45 minutes a day. And Joe has, you can see he's done that. You can set it for less, you can set it for more, right? And then depending on whether you hit your targets, you'll either get an X or a green check for the week, right? So this is looking great. Anyone, you're just a beginner like Joe and you do this work, we're going to see him again. My friends, we're going to see him again. Let's go look at his rating. 413 looks great. He's done some tactics tests, also looks reasonable. The little bit all over the place, but notice this 531, the average is usually pretty telling. And so with that average, I'm going to suggest that Joe is going to graduate again soon. By the way, another thing that we're going to get here is we're going to get a little tactics wizard badge. And that's just going to be if your tactics rating is above that of your cohort, right? So if he's in the 4 or 5, if you're 500 plus anywhere on tactics, you'll get a little tactics wizard thing. And then we have ideas of how to make that actually more functional besides just being a cool thing. All right, he said second annotated game. I think I want to try to find that one. Let's go here. Boom. So back on the horse of annotations. Looks great. What does our time look like? Okay, and here we want to say that one of the key ways in which Joe can get his rating up is just do what he did here. He thought and his opponent didn't. When you play the random people online, they're generally not going to be able to think. Okay? All right, so that was well done. We'll say this, and here we go. So far, so good. Beautiful. Poor. Let's read what he writes. I get a bit nervous when my opponent plays this, threatening the weak pawn. I need to remember it's not actually threatening anything, particularly if I castle. Great. And so a cool thing about this position is that he might look scary, but knight f7 is not a great thing. And the knight, not only it costs him a tempo to play knight g5, and really it doesn't belong there. It's not in the center. It belongs on f3. And maybe to your opponent's credit, he's just like, all right, I'm going to go back. d5, excellent move. Excellent move. They don't develop. We explode the center. We open the game. The value of time increases when the board opens. And we need to do it to get our Bishovsky out. So great move. Beautiful. Okay, now I want bishop g4. Simple chess. There you go. There you go. I definitely don't think you should trade. Yeah, let's read what you write. My aversion to trading continues. And you say not a worthwhile trade for black. Beautiful. Okay, king h1 makes 0 sense. And you're going to get moves like this a lot. Okay, and by that I mean moves that don't develop. Okay. I'm in love with your move, rook e8. Beautiful. You could do other things, but this is just such a simple move to play. Poor, weakening his position. Notice that you terrorized him with your bishop. Okay, so now his king is weak. Knight c3. I will say, normally I wouldn't say good move, but here I'm going to say good move because finally, dude brings out his coconuts. Okay, let's read what you write here. I think I did this to add another defender to my d5 knight, freeing up my queen. I wanted to begin moving my queen into the attack. However, this doesn't seem like a good way to achieve this as it blocks my rook. I think it is too passive. Okay, now, as I say every time on the Under 1000 grad stream, to make it to the next level, what you're going to need is 1, not hanging your coconuts. 2, developing your people. 3, learning to take your time, right? And the key heresy problem with knight c7 is you and your opponent aren't seeing knight e5. If white had thought for a little bit, maybe they would have found it, right? But they did not think. All right, now let's go back to this position. I feel like your default move should be knight takes, pawn takes, and e4. Opening up the position, this is great. If he takes, there's this. Looks great. There's probably other things you can do too. But notice with that simple thing, it was just intuitive thing that I did. I'm not doing anything fancy. And I am saying, when I take on c3, I'm like, I could play knight b6. You'd still be better there. But with this one, I'm just moving. I'm moving. All right, so knight c7 hangs the coconut, hangs the tempo. a3, a5. No player, by the way, is seeing that the e5 pawn is hanging. Your opponent then loses his mind completely and plays h4. No good. The king is too weak. h5, g5, knight f5. Good move. Notice no one is thinking about this poor pawn. That's a big pawn, boss. Okay, here's the problem with this knight f5. Your knight's hanging. Okay? So one of the things to see, Joe, here, okay, is that all of the fancy stuff about development, very helpful, but if you're hanging your coconuts, it's not going to be a good scene. Okay? So here we're hanging the coconut and your opponent isn't seeing it. Bishop b5, poor. Wasting time and missing taking the knight. Now your knight's protected. Queen d7, I like that move. Rook e1, terrible. And now you do something very fancy. Now, one of the things I want you to see, Joe, is your next move is like GM level tactics with knight h4, because you have this queen h3 thing. And so you have the ability to do deeper tactics, but where it's really going to count is just the hanging of stuff, like the hanging of the knight on d5, the hanging of the pawn on e5. In my deep experience with the under 1000 grad show, that is how these games are ultimately decided. Great move. Great move. And that's not it. Boom! Black wins by checkmate. So notice, you've developed better, and you took your time more, and both of you were hanging things, right? Both of you were hanging things. All right. Well done. Let's do another one. Next up, we have Guppy. Guppy has graduated numerous times. Doesn't tell us anything here, but let's just see what's going on with Guppy. So you can see Guppy's been doing some tactics. Okay. Got a beautiful, easy graph, lining them up. You can see here, this is our beautiful new UI. Dude's done more tactics than the other buckets. Right? Has done some of our tests and is at 529. So we're going to say that's very consistent with where he's at. Now, I have a feeling if he concentrated on doing the Polgar mates, which is part of the program for him, that he would be able to do better with these checkmate tests. And this is a very nice score, 1000 for the Puzzle Rush 5 minute. Very nice score. Okay, so what says, isn't the pawn defended by my rook on e1? I don't think so. All right, so let's look if we got some games here from Guppy. We got one. Now, I might have already done this. No, it was played just recently, right? Yeah, so we're going to go over here. Here, oh, well, it's time, my friends. Every time in the graduate show, I get to yell at often multiple people for not using any time. And I just want to stress, it's a key thing to making 1000. Oftentimes players above 1000, especially if they're playing a distracted game online, will also have this problem. But it should be obvious to everyone that when you don't think like this, you're not going to play your best chess. Doesn't mean like, you might lose a game against some chump who, doesn't think at all. It's going to happen, but it's a massive competitive advantage. Plus, you really are learning to play chess when you think. Chess is about thinking. It's a thinking game. By the way, it reminds me, there's a beautiful new documentary about AI and the Demis Hammurabi, I always pronounce his name wrong, called The Thinking Game. It's about AI, but, he is a chess player, so there's a lot about his background in chess. Highly recommend that one. Good afternoon, Skebix. Here we go. Check to the miserable king. Not a great move, right? Maybe not the end of the world. C3, I like it. Bishop A5. And now you B4'd him. Okay. I think this is probably okay to play B4. Tell you what, though, that isn't it. That isn't it, bud. And this guy, he thinks 1 second on this move. 1 second. Oh, man. Okay, thank you. Good move. Little weird. I like bishop d3 or you're moving your knight out. That's not it. Thank you very much. You're right. I took way too long looking at how to move my bishop out of harm's way before realizing that he hung his knight. So let's just say by taking a little time, okay, that's how you found the move. If you had just did an animal-like response and just moved a bishop, say, to g3, you wouldn't have seen it. But you took a little time and you saw it. And now you're up 2 pieces. Good move. No, that's not it. Notice, not developing. That's looking pretty strong, Bobs. That's looking pretty strong. And guess what? He doesn't think he needs to play queen d6, but he doesn't. He plays here, and we say boom. And I remember there was years ago, I played in Germany. We played some blitz with this guy, and he would love to crush somebody. And, he was into positional chess and attack and stuff. And he would, one time the bastard beat me. And I had lost my queen. He says, oh, this was in German, but he says, oh, he resigns when he loses his queen. So that's what I thought about that when it gets fish here. Okay, so what Joe is in the YouTube chat. Great for you to be here. What I thought that was a great promotion you did, Joe. I like your work ethic too. All right, here we go. Let's continue. Next up, we have, let's call him Gil, and Gil says, went into full step tilt and stopped playing for a while, but Chess and I fixed our problems, and now I'm back. All right, here we go. Oh, you can see there was a January problem and February problem that Gil had with chess. But they kissed and they made up. Been doing a lot of tactics. Okay, got into chess last summer. Looks good. You can see here, tactics, he's really crushed that. 558. So the tactics rating is a little low, and that's mostly coming from failing on a checkmate test. So again, I would say doing the Polgar mates, which is part of your tactics protocol, and then coming back and doing those mates tests would be great, because then you would clearly crush it. You get higher than this, and you would raise your tactics rating over 600, which is what we want. Okay, so but Bunad Ray says, sir, do you have any advice on learning openings? Well, actually, let's use Gil as an example. All we wanted him to do was watch a little video. So if you're under 1,000, that's about 1250 ChessCom, you shouldn't be studying openings at all. But you should have a sense of development. And if you watched me go over some of these games, we're going to get a basic sense of what development means. Okay, so here we go. Club skill. European, adult, great. And now we're going to go games. Got loads of games. Now, let's do this one here. Okay, now, this is the Madrid Classical Team League. Oh, that's cool. That's super cool. All right, first question, Jesse. We don't got any clocks. This is a real game, OTB. And let's take a look at how it goes. Okay, now E3 is not, by the way, we talk about development. E3 is not terrible, but you are blocking your bishop on C1. Okay, a lot of people do this kind of development pattern. It's usually called the Zuckertort, named after a dude way back in the day. And now, knight e5, good move. Okay, and he's saying f4 is coming. This is a very spicy and interesting position. C takes, unless black has something compelling after C takes, it's not a good decision. Right. A little more challenging would be queen b6. This introduces pressure on the d pawn, as well as maybe a c4 consternation, if I can call it that. All right, here we go. C takes, e takes. This is good for you again because he's giving you contact to your strong point here on e5. And you played f4. Now, we did a short, ChessDojo did a short, where I talked about how often the learning openings can be a hindrance rather than a help. And f4 is not terrible, But notice that it's not developing really your coconuts. So rook e1 comes to mind, and queen f3 comes to mind. And also, we want to have an answer to knight b4. Is like knight b4 going to be annoying? So f4, he plays knight e7. Knight b4 would be my question. Generally, the old Zukertort dude played a3 before any of this went down, just to stop knight b4. Okay. He's going full tilt, man. He's talked about tilt. Now he's going for it. All right, here we go. This is fun. Now notice, the reason this might work, okay, is because this bishop isn't in. And so he's in a little trouble, but I would say black should try to play this with the intention of someday putting that knight there. So knight f5, g4. It's definitely spicy. Snip, probably not a good idea. Okay. Well, maybe this is a problem. Well, okay, I have to take it back. Now you say d e5 is a mistake. Now, by the way, the position felt so overwhelming to me that I thought you could get away with g4, but I might be wrong. Okay, I might be wrong. If g4 doesn't work, by the way, then we should be considering moves, just basic moves, like building the position. Okay. Now g4, bishop e5, it looks like a good move. So my question is, if he wins the g4 pawn, is he going to be able to create a blockade on the light squares with his knight? I think so. So I think he's doing great. You say fe5, but notice, he's still creating a blockade. Like if you push him someday, he's just going to go back and sit on you with this big fat knight. Right? You still have some compensation because his bishop's terrible, but whether it's DE or FE, I don't think it's easy for you anymore. So I think g4 was the mistake. Bishop e5 was a good move. And now he says check to the miserable queen, king. Now we're in big trouble. Boom, now we're lost. There we go. Okay. Yeah. Now I think we're going to say that Lewis, this rating 1586 is probably equivalent to either a national or a FIDE rating. So you probably were playing someone much higher rated. Although they made some mistakes strategically, they punished you really well when it came to let's call it the combinative portion of the game with bishop takes e5 and then knight g4. Okay. Oftentimes, you know, what happens is you play in a OTB event and you're going to play, you know, either someone way higher or way lower than you. And so it's not a terrible thing, but just something to be aware of. One of the reasons I really like our Dojo round robins is there you're playing people who are really at your level. Okay, well done. Let's continue. The famous Lord Scuba, who we've seen before. Boom. And you know what? I have to make a small apology. I forgot to change it to the game review tab. So I'm sorry about that, Gil. It probably looked a little messy. So, we got Lord Scuba doing a lot of work. Beautiful rating graph. So that's just, when you do the work, that's the ideal. It just looks like something like that. You can see dude's doing a lot of, he's done some end games in his tactics here. Scuba instructor, nice. My chess coach actually is right now, went on like a trip of a lifetime. He's into scuba. Old Russian dude into scuba. And he's at this like famous scuba place in Indonesia. It's like really expensive, but it's like the scuba dream out there. All right, here we go. 751, beautiful progress. 800, this is looking very promising here. Yeah, okay. So we got some clubs. ADHD. Chestnut e-board. Oh, looks great. Okay. This is looking great, Lord Scuba. Now we got some games. Let's click on this bad boy. K. Borman. K. Borman, that name sounds familiar, so I think that name is part of the dojo. Here we got a beautiful time graph. 1 hour plus 30. Both players used their time well up to move 25, and then they stopped thinking. Your opponent actually got himself in trouble on the clock, which is rare at this level. Okay, here we go. Game review. Far Eastern says that Lord Scuba is in his round robin. Well, Lord Scuba, you can see already, of the three basic recs to make 1,000, he's got one down, which is he knows how to think. All right, here we go. Bing. So far, so good. Bishop d6 is a little weird. Bishop e7 makes a little bit more sense to me, breaking the pin. Okay. Okay. A little weird. And now bishop g3. Mistake. Why? Because you're not developing your pieces. What would be better? Rook c1, knight f3, something like that. Good move. And he says, just gives white a strong attack. Now, maybe, but I don't believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. I don't think there's anything happening for white on the h-file unless we help him. Rook e8. And he says, able to run away. What do you need? You don't need to run away. You're doing fine. You're doing fine here, man. You could play e5 here. Honestly, I kind of like your rook e8. You're going to play e5 next. Let's play e5. Good move. I think you're doing fine. C takes, knight b5. Now it gets spicy. Now it gets spicy. Now you played queen c2. This is a very spicy position. Hard for me to just instantly evaluate. Maybe the key variation might go like this. Queen a5. Knight c7. Is it scary? Yeah, it's scary. e4. Now, if he takes here, I just recapture and I'm doing fine. Knight a8. Queen a2. Knight c7. And I don't know, I'm just going to put it here. And do I know what's happening here? I don't know, but you got the pawn on a2. You're going to get one of those pieces back, and his king is permanently damaged. That seems to me, I don't know what the computer would say, but in a way, that's a good example of not to ask the computer. Because the point will be, white has to come up with some way here to shut your initiative down. And it's maybe not so easy to do. Okay, here we go. Snip, snap. Rook b8. Okay. He plays knight c7, which I'm not sure I can get with, as the kids say. Knight a7 looks like he's winning a pawn. Knight g4. And you write knight e5, knight d5. And this is say you don't like it, but let's continue. Knight d5, rook d5, knight f3. Knight g4 might also work, but let's just try knight f3. Bishop e6. To me, it looks like you have good play here. You know? You're going to have a little bit of play. For example, if rook a5, we'll play rook c7. Maybe king b1, something like this. I don't know, move somewhere. And something like this. We have some play. We have some play. All right, so rook d5. Now we're just in a little trouble here. Knight takes d5 makes a lot of sense here. And you're right, knight f2 looks good. Notice that you really shatter those pawns when you play knight f2. So I think white needed to play knight takes d5 instead of rook takes d5. And if you're going to take one of those pawns, take one that pawn, take with the d knight. No, you can't take with d knight, Kraai. Now you got to take with a rook. Notice the problem. If knight takes, we have this little problemito and casito. King f8. Fun. Okay. Bishop f5. Snip, snap. Knight b6. And this one scares me to death. Could we have tried king e7? Looks like we need to play king e7. You're still alive here. Okay. Knight b6. Now I think you're probably crispy. Well, wait a second. All right, rook e8 here. And now bishop c8 is a horrible move. The bishop is pinned. It's pinned. So all you have to do is play something like e4 and say you're never moving, buddy. Never moving. So he resolved the tension for you. And now you're down a pawn, it's true. But your king's a little bit more active, and white has to be real careful now. f4, don't like it. King f5, good move. Good move. Let's take all them coconuts. And now king f4. One of the things I want to stress here is when we go back to the time graph, what I want you to see is that you stopped thinking around this point. See that? Your time went up. So you had plenty of time. And by the way, we see this all the time in the dojo, where people get to the end game and they can't help themselves but move super fast. One of the things that analyzing the end game will do for you is it'll show you that, oh no, I need to calculate in these endgame positions because it's really hot. So for example, in this position, I still think I like your position after king f4, but the variation to calculate would be here. And then let's say, I don't know, here, 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 here. Now, can he take that pawn? I kind of doubt it. You know, run, Forrest, run. That would be the kind of variation I want you to look at in the analysis. e6, I think it's a good move. It's at least a good try. And you talk about f6. By the way, f6 might work. Let's just see what happens here, though. Because to me, it looks like you're up a coconut. That's what it looks like to me. King e3, and now you blunder with king g3. Yeah. Now, to me, the key move here is going to be knight d6. So then if white approaches your pawn, you're just going to leave it there and say, bows, that's my outside pass pawn. And white will have two problems. How to stop this guy from running, and how to stop you from crushing his remaining pawns. In general, this is a lost position for white. All right, king g3. Unfortunately, this happens to us. And now we lost the coconut. And now, honestly, white should be playing for a win. Agreed to a draw at this point. My opponent was basically working on increment, but I thought their extra pawn was a hurdle I couldn't overcome. Now, this one probably is technically drawn, but I can tell you from experience, white can really work you. He can work you in this position. So you got off a little light. Okay, good job. Mark that as reviewed. And that was the famous Lord Scuba. And now we have world number 1. That's a good name. Loving the dojo and the structure it provides up to this point. At first, I found the maiden twos much harder than the maiden ones. They are. But I feel like I am improving at them. One of the cool things we do is, start at the very beginning of the program, maiden ones. You move on, maiden twos. Those maiden twos at number 1471 get a little harder. I think 1471, though, you got to be kind of up there to hit 1471. However, I am almost positive some of the maiden two problems are missing possible answers. I have found, I think, 1 or 2. There are less than you might think. This stage I did not really work on any of the master games except memorizing the opera game. Advice or suggestions on how to study those would be great. Some of them have annotations, but others do not. Sorry if this is a silly question. Looking forward to the Dojo Open Classical Tournament, as well as focusing more on longer games in this upcoming cohort. Okay, great. Let's open up one here, world number one. Dude is crushing. Look at all that. Look at all that. And it's so cool. You could see, actually we could click. Let's click on his training plan and we'll go weekly. And so he's got it set. I believe he did this on his own. So he set his goal to 7 hours a week. And he has now hit that goal for the last 6 weeks in a row. So great, great. And you can see this week, he's already got 3 hour 40 in. You can decide, by the way, which day of the week you start. So this is looking great. Tactics rating, crushing tactics rating. And what we can say from that is Juan is going to graduate again fairly soon. And this graph just suggests it. He just keeps going up. And he's been doing a lot of tactics. Okay, so we go clubs. Dojo Latin America, great. And then we got games. And here we go. This one played a little while ago. I might have already looked at it. Let's see. No, I haven't seen this one. All right. So this is one. And what we're going to see is, do we have the same experience as the last game where somebody got to an end game and started blitzing him? Now, if he's up 2 pieces here and is just finishing his opponent off, I have some sympathy. But what if it's some position that requires thought? We're going to come back here. We're going to yell at him. Okay. All right, so game review. All right, and boop. I think 45 minutes is the default, but I'm going to look at the next person. Okay, you're doing fine. You're developing your coconuts. And this is a little weird. Not sure what I was thinking here. Gave up the bishop pair and proved my opponent's bishop for no compensation. Yeah, so you should just castle. Ooh, that's poor. Now, this one I want to stress, this is the real crime. Because you didn't lose any time with bishop takes f6. But you're definitely losing time with knight e5. Your opponent plays knight c6. I think dc is also a good move. And now you lose more time with f4. So, this is a great position for you to think about because you're now going to actually be lost. And it happened because you didn't develop your coconuts. Something I want to stress is your opponents at this level and also beyond, like let's say you reach 1,000, 1,100, they will still be doing this kind of nonsense to you. Okay? So you will be black in this kind of position. Notice black didn't do anything special. They were just like, okay, I'm going to develop my pieces. And all of a sudden, I'm winning. Thank you very much. Right? So, again, bury this position into your mind. Squirrel it in there. It'll be very important for later. DC, now you're crispy critters. Could also take with a queen. G4. A desperate move. I was not thinking clearly. Yep. Boom. Good move. Bam. Probably also a good move. Bam. 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 Check. And then, yeah. Well, notice rook f2 doesn't solve your problems because bishop d4. This is what happens. Like, you don't develop, it can just all collapse like this. All right, he plays rook f d8. I think the GM move here is just to take the rook. But rook f d8 is fine too. This just helps him out. Yeah, we're not interested in that pawn. Look at those. Look at that passer. Boom, I'm running, baby. Rook a d1. Rook a c8. No, he's just doing some terrible things to you. Oh. Now, I do want to say, this guy played really well. This is the phase of the game, by the way, where you stopped annotating and stopped thinking. King h7. Well, let's say that if you had thought here for a second, you would have seen that dude just hung his pawn. He is also playing too fast here. He's still hanging his pawn. You're not seeing it. Okay, king f2. Okay. Well, I mean, you're lost, but what are we going to do? I think here rook f1 would be a little bit more challenging for him to deal with. Yep. And here again, rook f1, at least you're going to win the f7 pawn. King f4, not a great move, honestly. King e2, way too fast, and then this happens to you. Now you're crispy critters. Okay, let's stop there. Lots of nerves and inexperience showed. Looking forward to the rematch against Nemo, however, to future Caro-Kann games. I can't be afraid to use my time. But I feel the experience in this time control should help me with that. Good. Those are good lessons. Yeah. Okay, let's continue. Next up, we have keep the mind sharp. All right, here we go. Boom. Keep the mind sharp, I'm going to guess, just arrived here. And they're in the wrong cohort. They're in the wrong cohort. So keep the mind sharp, do a game, do some work, and then put yourself in the right cohort. This says you should be in the 1,000 to 1,100 cohort. All right, but welcome to the dojo. Next up, we have Azod. Azod has done a lot of work here. Look at that, buddy. Yeah, there we go. Just want to get better at chess. Look at that. Dude is working at it. Now, we had the question, is the default, what's the default? Maybe it is 7 hours a week. I'm gonna look at this. Because I feel like if you're just coming to the 7 hours a week is, of course, great. But I think that's too much for your average person. So I'm going to ask the people. Okay. This, by the way, is there's a lot of details behind this laying out of the heat map and what we tell you to do. We've thought a lot about it. And the detail, for example, of what the default time should be is definitely something, I think 45 minutes, I thought that's what we agreed on. But in any case, that's something we can refine with experience, like so many other aspects of this. Now notice what's going on here with Azad is crushing the tactics over here. Absolutely slaying the tactics. And but did terrible on our tactics test. So Azad, going and doing these would give a good indication of where you are. You should also see that games and analysis, well, I'm going to hope that you have a game in there, but if you did annotate a game, it would show up here as long as you marked it, right? So if I look, okay, so look, just looking at something here. This is something, given that you did annotate 3 games, you should have some marked down here in games and analysis. Okay, here we go. So this is Black Lodge Chess Club. Bam. All right. All right, so we'll mark that as reviewed, and we'll turn it to game review. And did we have a time graph? No time graph. This might be an OTB game. It's not clear to me yet. Fine. 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 You're doing great. Fine. Fine. The first move that's a little funky because it's not developing his coconuts. Queen d7, good, developing move. Knight e6. You say take with the queen or the pawn. I like the pawn a lot. It opens up your rook. Now you're touching this square. You're also controlling this square. So I think taking with the pawn was a good move. a3. a5. Okay. bishop d2. And now here you have I would say, an interesting question of how do we now want to try to develop the initiative. The bummer is that at some point, white really needs to play e3 to blunt our bishop and prevent our knight from coming in. That's the bummer for us. So if they didn't have e3, we'd just be crushing them. So I just want to say this is let's call it a creative little situazione here where we have to come up with something. Now your move, queen f7, actually it's growing on me. I like it. So your opponent immediately blunders king h1 and allows knight g4, after which I think they're probably in big trouble. Queen h5 we might come back to. So king h1, notice it does nothing. What is the move? e3. e3's got to be the move. And then I was thinking for you maybe queen g6, queen e2. And then we need to find some way. Maybe h5 now. We need some way to start pressuring white's king. All right, but they did this. And you played knight g4. And queen h5 also looks very strong here. Knight g4 arguably allows knight e4. Queen h5. And now there was a very simple question. What happens on h3? Ah, you're doing fine. We're just going to take this coconut. So knight g4 or queen h5, crushing. Makes sense that king h1 ain't it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Should take with the bishop to put pressure on g3. I think I agree with that. But when you do take with the bishop, dude has bishop f3. And then we do need an answer. I think our answer would be this. Pop, pop, snoop. And I got snark coming up. Looks muy potento. Looks muy potento. All right, rook f2. Bishop f3. Rook takes. I think I would have preferred queen g6 now. And there you actually have it. Good variation. Rook f2, bishop f2, and what's the problem? The coconuts are falling. Good thing to see about this is that his queen is now active. And you say the game is back to equal, which I can't get behind because you're up a coconut. Queen g6, queen g2, rook f8, good. You say I lost my focus here. I wanted my attention to work. Now I struggle to find a concrete plan. Look, you're up a coconut. You're up a coconut. You're doing great. Rook f1. Now you played knight d4. And that I'm not sure about. Because I don't really want to hang this pawn if I don't have to. So knight d4, my question is, could he have just snipped your business? No. I take it back. I take it back. You got rook f1. So, good move. You're doing great. b4. Okay, snip, snap. I thought you were going to do here, snip, snap. You're going to have to do this anyway, so I kind of want you to just take it and move your bishop back. Okay, you're up a coconut. Good move. Notice, yeah, I think this is okay. So here, good move. Good move. And now we have this endgame. This is where I would want to see a time graph, by the way. King g2, and this is a mistake, c5. Let's talk about why. One of the things that learning to develop in the opening teaches you is that the question of what we can call development doesn't actually go away, ever. So when you play b5, you're really giving your opponent the opportunity to undevelop your bishop like that. So in general, I think the big question here would be, do we think we're winning after, say, f5, king f3, d5? Why do I like this? I'm putting my pawns in the light squares, and this bad boy is getting ready to run. Now, there's still a question. Could dude play e4? That's the question. Blocking me from playing e4. So, that's like, it's kind of concrete. It's kind of concrete. Yeah, maybe he can hold this then. I still think you're just doing great. So imagine f5, king f3, d5, e4, king f7. And at the minimum, I'm going to put my coconut here and then hope, I have good prospects. All right, here we go. c5, d5, okay. I don't like that. I don't know. Maybe he's doing things. Notice he's kind of shut you down now. That's interesting. Yeah, it's like he's the one making progress. Now you just killed your bishop. I don't know. King h8 is really weird to me. Holy moly. Okay, you played f5. He's going for it, by the way. I'm not sure he should. He should be playing. I think white should be, he's down a coconut. He should be playing for a draw. f5 might be a really good move. That isn't it. Now your king is active. Bishop f8. That isn't it. Now look, e4 now. Good move. He has to play bishop h6. He does not. e3. Bishop f6. Fine. Now this is the move I don't like. This bishop is containing the king. Meanwhile, your opponent is doing nothing. So we want to at least bring our king around to improve it. Go up here and talk to all his coconuts. Oh, we lost our coconut. Look, and let me just stress here, you guys. You guys. Oh, this is where you got to do the analysis. This is where you got to do the analysis, okay? And again, when you do endgame analysis at this level, the first thing you're going to start appreciating is, oh, I must calculate. I must be thinking. It's not just like it's boom, boom, boom. It's like chess becomes very concrete. It's always concrete, but in the end game, there's things to think about. All right, here we go. Well done. Mostly a good annotation. Notice it just stops, though, when we get to the end game. Just stops. It's a dojo problem. It goes beyond just a dojo, of course, but we really see it in our training program. Jacko says, great to graduate again. Definitely steadily improving. Turning on hide ratings and skewing my rating range toward higher rated players has helped me focus and avoid hope chess, as I just assume they are higher rated, and if I can see it, they can too. What is everyone's take on unfinished books when graduating? Only got a few games into first book of Morphy. Do people finish them off, work on them in parallel, or just leave them behind? I think first book of Morphy is a good one to finish in particular. In general, I'm going to explain why, but I think in general, when you finish a cohort, unless there's something you really enjoy, in general, you should move on because it's meant that you're on to the next level. One of the things about first book of Morphy, though, is we don't really have, let's call it, access to chess culture in the program and strategic thinking before the level you just graduated from. So 900 to 1,000. And first book of Morphy is a great beginning access book to that kind of thinking. In your next cohort, you're going to get another strategic book. But I do think for that reason, first book of Morphy, we could have also put it in the 1,000 to 1,100 group as well. So it's a great book for you to finish, especially if you are enjoying it. Far Eastern says, it's really concrete in the end game, Jesse, and it's hard for us when under 1,000. I will say it's also hard for us GMs. It's also hard for us, buddy. It's hard for everybody. And what I'm mostly seeing is when I see people, the time graphs, I'm seeing people move extra fast in the end game. So that's about impulsivity because their mind is having trouble gripping the problems of the position. Same thing I see in the annotations. When I see a bunch of stuff being said about the opening and middle game, but then nothing on the end game, I'm like, oh, their mind abandoned them at this phase of the game. So if nothing else, if you can just acknowledge like, oh yeah, Far Eastern's right, this is hard. And if I just sit here on my hands, there's a chance I'm going to get a little deeper into it. You're not going to solve it. Chess can't be solved anyway, but you will have better ideas and your opponents are going to be making mistakes. Okay, so we have Jacko. He says, great to graduate again. Oh, I'm sorry, I just read that. So here we go. Boom. Also fatigue, Skebik says. Absolutely. Crushing here. Jacko is here, just flying up there. Look at all these green check marks. Amazing. Tactics rating, 1154. That means we expect Jacko to graduate again soon. A massive 1,400 Puzzle Rush score. So that's very encouraging for him. Yeah, this is a pretty good business here. Now, it says 0 games in analysis, but maybe he has some games. Let's go look. See, I don't understand you guys. You have some games, put it in there, Bows. Put it in. Well, actually, I take it back. Maybe what happened was that Jacko did those from the last cohort that he was in. So maybe that's true. Maybe I've already looked at this one. Let's go take a look. Boomsies. Have I done this? No, I haven't done it. All right. Do we have a time graph? We got a great time graph. Jacko, that's looking pretty good. That's, I would say, for a 30-30 game, that's a GM level time graph. Maybe his opponent stopped thinking at move 40. We'll see if that's the case, right? But in general, that's what it should look like. And also, what you'll find as we go up the cohort ladder, we'll get more and more games, time graphs that look like this. All right, here we go. Good so far? Weird. I shouldn't say weird. It's just known to be a mistake. But you know what? You know what? At this level, don't worry about it. You made a move which GMs have played here. It's just known to be a little poor. But let's see how white plays. Okay. Okay. And I don't like this at all. Queen takes d4, knight c6. Thank you very much. He needed to play knight d4. Bishop d7. Good. Now you're in business. Now maybe you could do this. I was thinking you just take with the pawn, and then you're solid enough. Maybe you can play it this way. Yeah. And so now you're gonna have an isolated pawn. Only saw I was in trouble at the end of the exchange. Can't castle queenside, and my 2 pieces are undeveloped and need 3 tempi to castle kingside. Now, I will say, this is what we call a technical position. And it's not, while it's bad for you, it's bad for you if you're a GM. You're not playing a GM here. You're not playing a GM, okay? So, castles. And you say clear advantage. Now that's true, but like I'm saying, that you're not playing a GM here. So one of the first things we're going to see is, I'm hoping you left your king in the center. If you leave your king in the center, you have chances to survive this, I think. I think that's okay. Rook d1, a little superficial because now this rook, after the bishop moves, is going to be like bows. What about me? Knight e7. c4, and here you're fine. What is he doing with c4? He is solving the problem of your d-pawn. Now, I get it. It looks like he's going to win the pawn, but we got tricks, first of all. And second of all, yeah, even if you wanted to play king d7, c takes, I want you to see that you have some interesting counterplay here. Rook c8, followed by rook c2. You got some stuff. And notice your king is a very valuable defender. It's a blockader of the pawn. So this castles is a key mistake where you've undeveloped your king. Queens are off. Queens are off. Now I'm going to show you the trick. I think castles or rook d8, let's play castles, is more sensible with the idea that pawn takes, knight takes, rook takes, bishop h2, king, rook, and I would call this an equal position. It's spicy and everything, but it's equal in my estimation. Okay, so rook e8. I don't like bishop e3, allowing knight f5. You give him a tempo. Again, the end game is all about tempo. Probably a reasonable idea. Rook e2, correct in principle, for sure. Snip snap, rook d2. Rook ae8, king f1. Your opponent's playing this well. Now I think you should bring that rook back and put it here. Notice your knight is a great blockader of that pawn. This is not a lost position, okay? This is not a loss, definitely nothing to give up hope on. I played this as I calculated a line, rook e5, and he saw, this is actually a nice line to calculate. And you're losing this. Now, something I want to stress is the king needs to be here. So king f8 is what we want. Notice that if we had king f8, we could probably play rook e7 now. Oh, and this is real spicy. So knight b5, and then there's the question, what happens on rook takes b5? Presumably either knight c4 or knight e4 crushes our coconuts, and that's very sad. So rook d7 was a nice move. And now we're really getting crushed here. a4 I'm not thrilled with. I think knight c4 makes a lot of sense. Okay. Okay. Now we got a threat. We got a threat, son. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. Look at that. I told you that a4 didn't look good. And then here, and then look at this beautiful thing. Poke our mates, buddy. We got this going on. Now, this position is still pretty hot, right? This is still pretty hot. And I think it's a reasonable evaluation to say advantage black. At least for me on first glance, that's what it looks like to me. But not necessarily winning. It might be winning. Okay. D6. The problem with D6, okay, is this gives your knight this square. So, more interesting, I think, for him is rook a7. You can have this pawn. We'll win this one. And then I really want to run these babies. See, I want to run those babies. Okay, let's look what happened. D6, knight e6. I think that's a good move. I don't think that's good at all. Now, you say rook d4 is a mistake. It's hard for me to call that a mistake. Mama told me to put the pawn behind the passer. Now we want king f8, king g7, king f8. Bring the king in. Your move probably also okay. King f6. Okay, fine. King f6, good. And now you played h5. Notice if my king were here, I'd be able to go approach this bad boy. h5, I think you're still in control. King e4, this looks a little spicy. You played knight c5. Big decision here made quickly. And actually, I can see it. This is this typical problem we have here, right? Is you have yourself a position that obviously needs some thought, and you just go instantly knight c5. You say the computer says rook d4, and your move rook d2. Honestly, rook d2 also looks good. What the computer, I assume, wants is here and here. Then we'll win this guy, and we're not really. This guy's no longer a threat. He's under lock and key. So our real fear would be to lose this pawn, like I said, to lose that one, and then to have these guys running. So knight c5. Now this, I think, should be instructive for us because the knight is terrible when it's on the side of the board. It's just nasty. And if white can win that pawn on a5, it's going to be a bad business. I don't know about king c7. You say king a5, king d6, and you say black is a little bit better. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's hot. I think it's very hot. Probably b4 or king b5 here. Both of them look fine. King b6 might also be fine. This isn't going to be pleasant. In fact, watch my video I just did about Fischer Taimanov, game 4. It's just on our YouTube channel. I think it's one of the greatest games of all time. There's a lot of similarities to the way Fischer won that position in a position like this as white to this position. Okay, great. So let's continue. King c7, knight c5, knight d7, g4. We're not doing anything, are we? f6. Isn't f5 going to hurt us real bad? So you got to play f5 yourself. And now we're crispy critters. Okay. Now, let's yell at you. Look at this time graph. We had some key moves here, and you stopped thinking right around here. So very typical in the, these cohorts that people are not thinking when we get to the end game. You don't need to feel shame about it. It's just the thing of recognizing it. Because once you recognize it, you're going to be like, oh, it's not just me. And if I can just manage to slow myself down when we get to the end game, well, I'm going to be crushing these fools. Crushing them. All right, well done. Let's continue. I think we have one left. One left. Donnie Tsunami is up. Boom. Gratitude. So there's Donnie Tsunami, adult improver, wanting to improve my OTB. Just joined the dojo fairly recently. Done a little bit of work. Okay. Done a tactics test. Had a bad experience with it. Excuse me, a checkmate test. Had a bad experience. That's a very high score for Puzzle Rush. So if he does some Polgar mates, which he should do anyway, does some checkmate tests, bodes well for him. Okay, what do we got? Clubs? Nothing. Do we got some games? We do. Now, here he's done 5%. I'm hoping he's logged it here, that he's done his annotations. All right, these are all played fairly recently. Do I recognize any of these names? Not really. So let's go over here, 30-0. Do we got a time graph? Oh, look at that. So, by the way, it's not everybody. It's not everybody who can't use time. These guys, that's got to be a GM-looking graph, right? Okay, so let's go game review. And here we go. So far, so good. Poor. Better would have been a developing move like e4. Well said. Okay. Good move. Good move. maybe a little unnecessary. Good move. Okay. Now, this B5 stuff is an interesting proposition. I guess we're going to take it. Rook A5, poor. Probably bishop takes. He needs to trade some pieces off. Bishop D3. I think bishop C4 makes a little bit more sense to me. That's not it. And you said thank you very much. Now, your opponent played bishop A4 in 20 seconds. Clearly, if they had spent a little bit more time, they would have been doing better here. That's probably a good move. And you say, giving up a potentially strong bishop for a knight, allowing my opponent to have a strong bishop controlling the diagonal and contested. But this is, I feel, your idea with bishop D2, right? All right. It's a little scary. I'm going to be with you there. It's a little scary. But he is threatening knight takes D3. Snip stop. It is a little funny here. Because here he blew it. All he needed to do now was to play rook over, and your coconut is going to fall here. Yeah, what a bummer. That's unfair. This would be a great position for a variation. The point being, if he needs to guard this square. If he goes here, we can play knight c3, and you can't take us. If he goes here, I think we might be able to do some tricks. Bishop c2. Hold on to that bad boy. Is it hot? Yeah, it's still a little hot. Okay, black plays rook b8. Queen c2. Now you're going to be able to play b3 if you need it. Good. Now just move your rook. Good. I think rook ac1 makes sense. I'm thinking longer in this game than you guys did. Knight h5, no one knows. Knight e5. Oh, no, he meant to play pawn e5. Well, now, sometimes what I see when somebody does a mouse slip like this, that they're playing too fast. But in fact, dude did think for basically 6 minutes on this knight e5. The weird thing is, even though he's blundering a piece, he's still in charge of this game. I don't like g4. No, 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 no. You're letting the knight in. Much better would have been g3, followed by king g2, and then trying to get some expansion. I don't understand. I don't. Yeah, just taking all your stuff. He's taking all your stuff. Now, knight c6, I was thinking this was on purpose because he could go snip and then play knight f2 or something. All right. Oh my gosh, look, it got a little hot. Queen d3, I think that's a good move. Now I'm confused because knight f2. We needed to do some more annotations here because rook d1, you're just in charge. You're up a piece again. And now I don't know what's happening. All right, now it's an interesting endgame. Black should be winning, but their main challenge now is freeing their rook. So the first thing might be e5, is it maybe a strong move. I'll show you how complicated chess is. e5, pawn takes, rook takes. e7, exclam. Rook c8. Oh no! So e5 would be, and then I got a nice thing to think about, but we're not ready for it. He plays h5. I don't know about that one. b4, good move. a5, good move. e5. Now I think you still have that trick. b5. Now if this works, it works. Notice, black has spent a lot of time doing nothing, and you're about to achieve b6. Good move. b7, thank you very much. Now, let's just say the obvious. You should make a queen here, buddy. What are you doing? Make a queen. Now, I don't know. Another mouse flip. I meant to play queen g7. The good news is you're going to win this anyway, right? Oh, you could have taken it. Okay, I'm going to go look at the time graph again. And we're just going to just pause here. You're playing way too fast, as is your opponent. I get it. You guys are, we're getting to the end, but 30 minutes rough. But I get it. There's anxiety there. There's anxiety. Okay, my friends. Great show. I'm going to rate somebody, get out of here. I will be back tomorrow where we are going to do... what are we going to do, Jesse? We're going to do the grad show for the over 1,000 players.